Good morning, everyone. I think we're about ready to get started. Can you all hear us online? Any thumbs up, thumbs down? We have audio on Zoom. Perfect, I got a thumbs up. Okay. Well, good morning, everyone. Thanks for coming. This is our February Economic Investor Monthly meeting. So great attendance. Looks like we have a handful of people online as well. I'd like to start out by thanking Farah Roofing. They're our coffee sponsor this morning. And I know Ben's here. Ben, you want to tell us a little bit about Farah? Thank you for the coffee.
I don't love to get up and talk, so.
That probably means he's a good roofer.
Yeah. Now we're a commercial residential roofing contractor, and we're new to Durango and the surrounding area. We're excited to be here, looking forward to building relationships and friendships, and looking to help the success of Durango. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. As far as the board report, so we had our monthly board meeting last week, working on finalizing the annual report. I think that's going to print this week and should be out in the coming weeks. So that's exciting. Other than that, we're really looking at 2022 as this is kind of the year I think a lot of our strategic initiatives are really primed to make some good progress. I think in the coming months we'll have some exciting announcements about some developments on La Posta and just a lot of things going on. So with that, I know we have a packed agenda as we always do. So I will actually, let's not turn over to Mike yet. There is a sign up sheet coming around. I know it was over here. Perfect. So as that comes around, you can flip, find your name. If there's any contact information that you need to update, go ahead and do that. If it's your first time here, you can go to the back page and add your contact information and we'll get you on the distribution list. And then do we have any first time visitors today? Oh, we got one back there. All right. If you wouldn't mind, you can just stand up and introduce yourself and let us know who you are.
My name is Tiffany Ferguson. I was recently hired as the contract grant writer for Region 9 Economic Development District. So looking forward to going to you and saying how much of
Awesome. Welcome. Anyone else here for the first time? Perfect. We got a couple more. All right.
I'm not exactly new, but Dean Brookie, I was formerly a politician and now I'm representing Brookie.
Awesome. Morning, Dean.
My name is Waylon Ryan. I'm the new Sustainability and Policy Manager for Visit Durango. So I'll be getting to know a lot of you and reaching out as I get settled in my new role.
Thanks, Waylon. Okay.
This is my first time in person, but I have been online before. My name is Gloria Knox, and I am with the Nevada Electric Association.
Welcome in person. Okay. I think that's all of our first time visitors. I'll turn over to our Executive Director, Mike French.
Morning, everybody. So first and foremost, I'd like to thank some members. We have a new member, ICAV. Some of you guys know ICAV. They're the former BP, or at least they bought the assets, the natural gas assets of BP. They also have the big building that they're trying to lease out by the airport. Desert Sun, thank you for the renewal. The associate member level, Align Tech, thank you. Friends, Lucky Services, Jessica, thank you very much. And our public partners, the town of Bayfield and the town of Ignacio, we received their checks in the last couple of weeks. So thank you very much. Very briefly, unemployment trends. La Plata County is continuing to inch down. We're at 4.0% unemployment. That's still a little bit off from the 2+% that we had going into the pandemic in 2019. Colorado is hovering well above the US average, primarily because of the industries that we're involved in at 4.8%. And the US average is dipping down under 4, which is pretty significant. That hasn't happened in a while. I think over 2 years it's been since it's been under 4%. So I think we're outperforming the state, but as you can see, the state's lagging behind the national average. Very quickly on housing stats. So for the month of January, these stats just came out in the last 24 to 48 hours. Durango proper is showing half a month's supply compared to January 2021, which had 1.9, almost 2 months worth of supply. And mind you, 2021 was a record-breaking year. So when we compare 2022 to 2021, it's really a hard comparison just based on how phenomenal the real estate market did, both in price and volume. Median price is up for the month compared to same time last year in January, 25%.
We lost audio.
Do we have audio back out there? Thumbs up. Do we have audio back? We do?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. La Plata County has 1 month's worth of supply compared to 2 months, a little softer in stats, but as you can see, supply and demand is still working against us. And we will continue to see a price increase, although it's somewhat plateaued just because of the lack of inventory as well. We're making steady progress on the POSTA. This effort is really being led right now by the city and Scott Shine, who's actively engaged with planning meetings for all the landowners that are involved in the proposed annexation zone or the annexation area. The city is also working closely with their contractors on developing construction costs for the infrastructure. And the city and the county are determining what the IGA might look like for budget purposes, as both of them are committal to budget for the project. The proposed annexation process is being scheduled and will go through its formal process. We'll have a full update from Scott Shine and the URA, the proposed URA that's being planned in that area next month. So I'm really looking forward to that. In the meantime, it's just a lot of meetings with these landowners to make sure that when we do get ready, that they all feel comfortable on how that's going to impact their individual plat. We'll also have an update on the housing investment plan that the Alliance has commissioned with Project Moxie and the city for the READY grant. There's a ton of activity in development. We've had a lot of stakeholders, landowners reach out, talk about potential projects, how to leverage their land, public-private partnerships with both the city and the county, a lot of activity in both the city and the county. And all of those opportunities are being vetted right now. So stay tuned for that deliverable. I think that deliverable will be within literally the next 60 days. So I'm pretty excited about that. With that, as Jameson said, we have a really packed agenda, the usual, and hopefully we'll keep it on time. So I'll turn it back over to Jameson.
I know the packed agenda continues to just shock everybody. We'll turn it over to Nicole Killian. She's the Community Development Director for the town of Bayfield. I believe Nicole is on the line with us.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Can hear you.
All right. Well, good morning, everybody. I can't see everybody in the room, but I'm sure I know most of you. Nicole Killian. I've actually been with the town of Bayfield for 2 weeks now. I was previously with the city of Durango as the assistant director, and I was with Durango for 16 years almost. So very familiar with a lot of you in Durango. I've been with Bayfield, like I said, for 2 weeks now. I came over to Bayfield for a couple of reasons. Number one, I've lived in this community for 15 years. This is where we bought our home when I moved to the area and have been raising our daughter who's 10 years old. And so Bayfield is my home. And when I saw that, you know, there's a lot of projects in the pipeline for Bayfield, and they finally needed somebody to come in and help them as a staff, I had to proceed with that process just because it is my home and I want to see Bayfield grow in a sustainable way. And knowing that it does need to grow. Bayfield right now does have 2,600 people in the city limits. Of course, we do have county areas, especially Forest Lakes, providing a lot of population to our community, but still small community. And right now we have about 200, a little over 200 acres of proposed annexation that is on my desk that we'll be looking at coming into the town, and potentially 600 plus new units in our community with that those annexations. So it's a pivotal time for Bayfield in terms of changing what the community looks like, and I wanted to be a part of that. So while Durango will always have a piece of my heart, I'm excited for this new opportunity. And here I will also be helping with economic development. We do have probably up to 500,000 square feet of commercial that would be coming in along with these annexations. And so what does that look like for Bayfield? We'll be trying to figure that out. And I think, you know, since I've only been here 2 weeks, my initial goals are, you know, I'm trying to get up to speed. Planning is planning, but every community does it a little different. And so just trying to get up to speed with Bayfield's plans, long range documents, and really looking at what have been the community goals over the years and how do I help achieve those goals through the planning process. So looking forward to working with each and every one of you in my new role in Bayfield.
Super. Thanks so much, Nicole. Welcome to Bayfield. Not that you're
Thank
new
you.
there, but welcome.
Thank you.
We'll turn over to Tony Vicari with the airport for a little update. Morning, Tony.
Spacebar?
Yes, sir.
Great.
Morning, everyone. Tony Vicari, the aviation director at the Durango-La Plata County Airport. I was most recently here in August. Seems like a long time ago, and yet it was pretty quick. But back to provide a short update on the airport. I have a good deal of slides, but I'll try to move through them pretty quick here. So just quick recap on 2021. In short, it was the busiest year of all time at the airport with almost every metric, the most impactful being airline passenger traffic, but also crossing the board to general aviation activity, cargo activity, and most of our other key measurables. That, of course, came on the heels of a record depressed traffic in 2020 as an obvious result of the pandemic. So you can see that the very sharp and clear V recovery at the airport in 2021, we were up just over 1% from 2019 levels of traffic. Looking at it on a month-to-month basis, you can see that essentially all that traffic surge occurred from June onward. Through the first quarter of 2021, we were down 30% from 2019 as the lingering effects of the pandemic hung on. However, we crossed that line and met 2019 levels in May, and then surged significantly from there on. Every month from June through December was an individual monthly record of airline traffic for us through the back half of 2021. As we talked about back in August, we've really differentiated ourselves in terms of our recovery from the US average. This chart, you can see this is percentage of pre-pandemic traffic levels, with the blue line being Durango and the orange being the US average. There's been a steady gap between those two to the positive for Durango throughout the duration of the pandemic, with the exception being the very recent past here, essentially the early parts of 2022. You can see the pretty steep tail off here in the early parts. A little bit of an anomaly driven largely by major interruptions on the airline front, in particular, huge Omicron impacts in the early parts of January led to major cancellations and drawdowns particularly in regional markets that were specifically hard hit as regional carriers such as SkyWest, Mesa, Commute Air, et cetera, had major call outs with staff, pilot shortages in particular. We're seeing that start to even out a little bit, but you can see the traffic remains a little depressed at this point. Looking at 2022, this is our budget forecast, just looking at passenger traffic on a monthly basis throughout the year. So the way our budget forecast was established is so far proving and bearing out to be fairly accurate. We were sort of assuming some choppiness in the first quarter of 2022. So we had forecast for some slightly below 2019 passenger levels with a recovery throughout the summer overall. You can see that dip in September where we're showing the 73% of 2019. That's attributed to a planned 10-day runway closure for a major reconstruction project that I'll talk about in a subsequent slide here. In terms of the airport's financial position, we're in an extremely strong position at the moment. We're coming out of the major impacts of the pandemic and in a very strong financial position. We currently have nearly 2 years of operating cash on hand, just over $7.5 million. And then another about $5 million of restricted funds that are eligible for capital projects. This is attributed to a couple of factors. One is some drawdown on COVID relief grants that the airport was eligible through the combination of CARES, CRISA, and ARPA federal congressional relief packages. So we've been drawing down upon those funds. However, we're in the advantageous position of not needing to use the balance of those dollars to offset heavy operating losses like many airports. Due to our strong recovery, we've been able to essentially stockpile those dollars and build our cash position, which is going to put us in the position to tackle some capital projects more aggressively than initially planned, which we'll see here shortly. The other major impact for us is the bipartisan infrastructure law, as I'm sure most are familiar with, that was recently signed into law. As it relates to aviation, there's sort of 3 buckets of money that come out of the infrastructure bill. You can see them listed here. 2 of the 3 are relevant to us, the other one being air traffic facilities, which aren't going to directly impact Durango. The first one, the largest pot, that $15 billion, is direct airport infrastructure grants that are formulaic in nature. And you can see the first year appropriation under this program is just over $1.9 million for federal fiscal year 22 for Durango. It's a 5-year appropriated package effectively. And at this point, barring any major changes in traffic levels, we'd anticipate that a number similar to that 1.9 million will be subsequently appropriated to DRO through the infrastructure bill for the subsequent 4 federal fiscal years following 2022. On that end. So in sum, that results sums up to about $9.5 million in over current grant funding levels that we currently receive through the FAA's Federal Airport Improvement Program. So a major surge of funds coming towards us. At this point, we're still working with the FAA in terms of how those dollars will be allocated. That process is not fully ironed out by the FAA as of yet. However, just kind of taking an early pass on it, it's likely that those funds will probably be directed pretty significantly towards terminal development here at Durango. To that end, you can see the other bucket of money here, that $5 billion that is specifically set aside for airport terminals, has a very unique program. There's not a program that would be equivalent to this in the FAA currently. So that, unlike the airport infrastructure package, which was formulaic in nature, which is based strictly on your traffic levels, the airport terminal section is going to be a competitive grant program. So it's administered nationwide, broken up into different buckets of money depending on airport size. It'll be an extraordinarily competitive program. Again, it's got outlays over the next 5 fiscal years. And you can anticipate that we'll be submitting grant applications underneath that bucket of money as well. So that to us is probably really kind of a gravy type of position. If we were to be able to land a grant underneath the specific airport terminal umbrella, it just frees up money from that formulaic part for us to apply to other infrastructure projects at the airport. So to sum all that up, this bill is hugely impactful for us here in Durango. And we're in a great position moving forward to really tackle some capital, which has been backlogged for many years at the airport. So to that end, I won't go through all of these, but you can just see a quick snippet of planned 2022 capital work at the airport. We have over $22 million in planned capital projects for the current fiscal year. That's really constituted of a wide variety of projects. The 2 big ones I'll hit on. The first one, as I mentioned earlier, is a planned rehabilitation of runway 321 at the airport. We are a one runway airport, of a 9,200 foot long by 150 foot wide asphalt runway surface. It has not been rehabilitated in approaching 15 years at this point. And so like any piece of asphalt pavement requires routine pavement maintenance. So currently we're actually out to bid, with bids closing on March 1st on that project. That project is a major 8-figure rehabilitation project. It'll be a 3-inch mill and overlay on the asphalt surface. The downside, of course, is that as a 1-runway airport, when you're conducting pavement maintenance of this nature, it means we have to shut down to all fixed wing aircraft traffic, which will, of course, impact commercial airline traffic. But in addition to that, you have interruptions to air cargo, the air tanker base for the Forest Service, emergency medical flights. So we're very aware of the major impacts it'll have to our community. So we've worked with our engineering team to try to keep that closure window as short as practical. And it'll be a 24/7 paving operation, pushing to get that done as quick as practical. Scheduled dates for that are September 7 through 16. It was a long process for us working with our airport commission to identify dates that would have the least cumulative impact in our community. There's no good date to shut down your runway when it's your only runway. We understand that, but we worked very closely with our stakeholders at the airport. The Alliance was one of them, and the community as well, to try to identify dates that would be the least bumpy for us. So we're committed to those. Those are in our bid documents, and at this point, we're moving forward aggressively on that project. The other major project for this year is terminal expansion. So we'll just get into that. So in September of 2021, we initiated design on a phased expansion of the terminal. So as many have known who've sort of tracked terminal development in Durango, this is something that's been looked at for a better part of a decade and has so far resulted in very little movement in terms of actual real expansion at the airport. So in 2020, we overhauled our long-term terminal plans to allow for phased incremental expansion of the terminal on the existing site. So we're several months into the design process at this point, recently wrapped up concept design and are in the very initiating stages of schematic design. I won't get into this. If you're very interested in the details, I'd be happy to talk with you more individually on this, but we'll just do kind of a real high level overview. So here is a high level schematic just showing the proposed floor plan for phases 1A, 1B, and 2 of terminal expansion, showing a major expansion of facilities. For reference, the sort of heavy set red line T box you see is the current outline of the existing terminal. So when we break this down real quickly into phases, phase 1A is of course our first phase of proposed construction. As of now, this is in our appropriated 2022 budget. So if all goes well, we could see breaking ground on this smaller tactical phase in late 22 or perhaps early 23 as design plays out. This is a more targeted strategic expansion. Just for reference, you can see this is a primarily targeting post-screening gate and hold room space, which is a pretty major constraint for us at the current time. So proposing to expand the area that's adjacent to the current United and Frontier gate areas to the right on this diagram or north to expand and create additional gate and hold room space, expand restrooms, and also add post-screening concession opportunities in addition to our current opportunities. This is, like I said, is a more targeted project. This is proposed to be cash funded by the airport, driven in large part by our advantageous cash position currently, and also serves as a enabling project for the more impactful phase 1B of expansion. And this is really where we see the sea change in the airport operations. So the big pivot here is moving the TSA screening checkpoint from its current location in the central corridor of the terminal, which is constrained and fixed in its location and serves as a pinch point for growth in the future, and expands and relocates it rather to new build to the north of the terminal. You can see where the 2 security lanes are here in the proposed new build. It really resets the center line of the building, creates yet more gate and hold room space, relocates baggage claim, and really kind of resets the entire operation of the airport and moves us forward. The completion of phase 1B, or really the full completion of phase 1, made up of phase 1A and 1B, marks a really key milestone for us. This would get us to a point where we've got a fundamentally well-functioning airport flow, meeting modern design standards and demands, and allows us to begin moving forward to future phases of development as demand dictates, and also allows us to look at opportunities to decommission our much loved tent, which currently serves as the gate and hold room space for American Airlines. It's important to recognize that, while today's facilities do serve us in a reasonably good way, about 60% of our available square footage post-screening is made up of a temporary structure. And so we need to have long-term plans in place to not just expand the airport, but to be able to replace existing facilities that are only temporary in nature. So when we talk about this, some people look at it and say, this is too aggressive of growth for the airport. And I look at it and saying, I just need to be able to replace temporary facilities so that at a minimum, we can maintain the square footage that we have today in a functional way. And then phase 2 is a little further out for us in our future planning. So just quick to wrap up, just a couple of fun renderings for us. So this is selected architectural design concept recently approved by the Design Review Committee, as well as the Airport Commission on this project. So just for fun, you can kind of take a look at it. We're looking at some pitched roof opportunities with additional solar PV and some integration into the existing terminal. These are very much early rough take conceptual design. Like I said, we're just in the very onset of schematic design at the moment. So these will continue to evolve as we move forward. And then lastly, my quick pitch, Mike referenced the ICAV facilities on Airport Road. The airport has its own facilities that it's also looking to lease currently. So thought I'd pitch that out to this group. We do own a 12-acre parcel at 820 Airport Road, just north of the current terminal. On that parcel, we have two 20,000 square foot commercial buildings, one being made up of commercial office space and the other one mixed warehouse and office environment. So if you know anyone who's interested in actively leasing these properties, we're currently in open negotiations with interested tenants to potentially look at those opportunities. So feel free to contact me if you know of any interested parties. And with that, I wrapped up.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Tony. It's always good to hear what's going on at the airport. Move to Devin Merriman for an update on the Jacobs bond to business.
Space Park too.
Space Park, cool.
Morning, everyone. Devin Merriman with the bond program with Durango 9R. I'm going to cruise through this update pretty quickly. I got a little short amount of time. Just for reference, I'll be giving this quarterly, I believe, Mike. So, but you can always refer to our CVOC updates on the 9R website, and we give this same kind of presentation to the board every quarter. So, just a quick highlight on sustainability. The district's formed a committee that's kind of working with the bond program a little bit, but separately on all of our bigger projects with Miller and CIC. We're going to have CHIPS kickoff. So CHIPS is collaborative for high performance schools, and we're going to go for certification on our larger builds there. So that's kicking off right now with our design teams. Continuing to work with bond to business. That's our initiative with Economic Alliance and the SBDC. With trainings and getting the meet and greet set up for March with all of our local contractors and subcontractors. Overall program update. So we have about 15% of the program committed, so encumbered. Budget remaining is about 85, and of that 15% encumbered, we have 6.26% spent. You're going to see that kind of go up as we get all of our design invoices going, and that total committed will skyrocket up here as we get going with contracts for summer construction.
That's a 90 million.
Say it again.
That's the budget of 90.
So the bond program is 90 million, but with premium interest, we're about 115 is the total budget right now, 114, 115. So a lot of that you built in your program contingency, all your project contingencies, includes the charter allocations for 7.5. So that's a good highlight here for local participation with this group. We're sitting at about 69% if we count our charter allocation. So that's the 7.5 million that goes to Animas High School, Mountain Middle School, and Juniper. Without that, we're sitting about 46%. That's pretty good with what we've gotten done so far with all of our designers being out of town. So a portion of that fee goes to them, but all of them have partnered with a local architect who will probably be driving most of the construction administration phase. So they help us out through construction with making sure the design is built like it's supposed to be. So that's RMBA, Reynolds Ash and Associates. We've got Goff Engineering, DHM Design, SET Engineering, and I think there's a few more out there that I'm not thinking of, but we've got a lot of really good local consultants that are partnering with our architects from out of town. Just a little negative Nancy moment. We all know the current market escalation is pretty crazy right now. Volatility with material lead times, cost. So we're trying to navigate that as best as we can. Some mitigation strategies we have in place is hiring all of our contractors early. I thought I saw Mike Fouts on there. So we have FCI contracted for a couple of our projects as well as none. And they're already on board helping us out with pre-construction and getting going on some early procurement packages to try to navigate that situation and be ready to execute this summer before school starts next year. Best grants, we've been talking to the rep for this region with 9R and the best grant rep. Miller and CIC have pretty much been, we've been told no at this point, just with passing the bond, the age of the facilities. They have better priorities throughout the district for safety and security and for communities that don't necessarily get the same support as Durango does. So we're going to go for best grant for our secure vestibules though. We feel like that's our best shot. It was submitted last Friday. So we'll keep everybody updated on the status of that. I'm going to cruise through these project updates. Please, like I said, this same presentation and a different kind of format is on the Durango 9R website. Just go to the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee page, and you'll see all of our monthly updates there to that CBOC group. But Miller Middle School, we're going into schematic design, actually kind of wrapping that up right now and in review, getting our cost estimate back, so lots of updates to come once we have that review done with the district. CIC is the same, schematic designs in progress. We should be wrapping that up around early March. Same thing with cost estimate review with the district, and then we hope to get some really good community updates out there and have some cool tools to use for the board presentations, kind of like fly-throughs, really cool conceptual drawings, just like they showed for the airport. Oh, real quick, one thing on the CIC I want to mention, student involvement's been awesome. Nick Huber at the high school, it's been amazing to watch him work with us. He actually has an internship with our architect for the CIC. And I think he starts pretty soon. But he's been really key in our design elements and key concepts and principles for that whole design. It's been pretty impressive to watch the kid work. I mean, he's going to have a good future. Secure vestibules, those are getting construction documents. So our phases go schematic design, design development, and then construction documents phases all the way to bid documents. So we're in construction documents just about every project right now. Roofing, we actually have out to bid currently. Those bids are due on the 18th of this month. So that'll be our first contract out the door. Actually need to get this one out on the streets today. So this will go to our pre-qualified contractors today, be an FCI, Nunn and Janes, and then we will get that rolling with bids due probably early March. Durango High School's renovation design is kind of going with CIC. Those two pair each other really well. We've got the same contractor, same architect on there. They kind of overlap a little bit with the CIC building, parking lot, and interior work. So that design is tracking right with the CIC. Edom Elementary School is in construction documents. We've got FCI on board for this project, and they're doing really great. We're actually got our first change order going to the board tonight for our first early equipment package. Park and Sunnyside, same deal there. We've got none construction on those two. Estimates and bids are due this week. It's where we can start putting that early equipment package together. Like I said earlier, to kind of navigate the market conditions right now. And then these are kind of our higher level 9R bid packages. We're tracking the budgets, making sure it's staying within the bond parameters. But transportation, they've ordered and received one new bus. They plan on ordering I believe four more throughout this timeline of the bond program. And then technology, they're installing fiber at all the rural schools. I think they have Fort Lewis Mesa done, and they're just left with Sunnyside at this time. Like I said, with charter school allocations, this has actually been updated for this next month's reporting, but I believe Animas High School is fully 100% drawn their funds, and then Juniper and Mountain just have a little bit left to go, and that'll be closed out. Future projects, so these are the projects not highlighted right now that are happening this summer or in design, like Miller and CIC. These are scheduled for 2023, 2024 summers. That's it. Any questions? Karen?
Hey, Devin, do you want to just give a real quick high-level overview of Miller, just where the site is, because that was controversial?
Oh, yeah.
And then CIC, they got how that's going to fuel career.
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing that is coming out is a community update. We're working with our architects right now to get a presentation together. That'll be a recorded Zoom session that we link and distribute to the community at large to watch. We all have a smart sheet form for your comments. But for Miller, at the beginning of the project, 9R has multiple properties. And for due diligence, we wanted to look at all properties to make sure we're making the right decision. And especially with the market conditions now, there's a lot of impacts with the current site, but we have made it work. It's just working with the architect and 9R to get that down to a manageable cost, but it will work on that current site, and we should be able to keep kiddos in the building. That's the biggest thing for me. I know the district was very concerned about relocating kids and portables and all that good stuff. We're gonna be able to keep those kids in the building. We may have to do some strategize for one classroom, but other than that, we'll be able to keep them in the existing building.
Then the CIC. you just talked about.
Yeah, CIC, so it's always been meant for Durango High School's campus. We looked at adding it to the shop end of the school on the south end of the campus. We also looked at kind of in the courtyard area. We landed on the northwest corner there where that little staff parking lot is across from the grassy lot. That's where that currently is located in design. We found that's best with being able to provide new parking lot circulation that works well with the site. It kind of works well with being located near art, the photography, things like that, that'll probably more align with that building than Metals and Wood Shop will. The Metals and Wood Shop, we've also determined we're going to look at potentially trying to evaluate the feasibility of this, but new ventilation system for the metal shop and a new dust collection system for the wood shop. Yes.
I didn't hear anything about Big Picture High School. Is there?
So big pictures, a little up in the air with 9R right now. The bond program is currently just stepped back from that, but we do have a little bit of money allocated for supporting whatever that decision is.
And I can say, we are in partnership talks with Powerhouse. That's all I can really say right now. But we have really exciting plans for them to be working with Powerhouse for both a temporary and a permanent location. So we're definitely want to keep them near town.
Any other questions? Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim. Always exciting to see money going back into our schools. We're gonna skip around just a touch and go to Tim Walsworth with bid and get a quick update from Tim.
Good to see everybody. Thanks for having me. Quick updates from bid. We're really excited about the project to look at potentially having permanent outdoor space downtown. The city's community development department is really leading this effort. It's called Downtown Next Steps. You guys will see some conceptual drawings come out, I think, towards the end of the month that show how it might be. And so watch for those opportunities to comment coming soon. The bump outs, as we currently have them, will come back as these seasonal temporary structures. They'll be eligible to roll out as early as March 14th and will last through the end of October. Some other things BID is working on in 2022, we'll continue our partnership in the Durango Welcome Center. In 2021, we always count the number of people through the doors. We passed 1 million people since that place opened back in, what was it, Jasper? October 2012, I think, right? A long time ago, but that's pretty exciting. We'll do our ambassador program again. That's proven to be very successful over the summer months. We will manage 2 rewards programs. These are things we created during the pandemic and they've been so successful. They're now part of what BID normally does. And so we reward people for shopping locally through those programs. We'll manage several events, San Juan Brew Fest with Lynn and United Way, August 26th and 27th. We'll do the Downtown Balloon Glow on October 14th, Children's Halloween on Halloween, and then our Singing with Santa event the day after Thanksgiving. And one last thing to mention right now is, the BID is funded by a small property tax on about 400 commercial properties downtown in North Main. That tax is set to sunset in 2025. So myself and the board, John Mahoney's on the board, we're looking at an election to keep us going. And we're looks like we're honing in on May or November 2023. So more to come on that. Thank you, guys.
Thanks so much, Tim. We'll move to Mark Garcia. I think he's online with us for an update on Ignacio. Morning, Mark.
Good morning. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Sorry I couldn't join you today. I have to be in Monte Vista later today, so avoided a lot of driving. I am the interim town manager in Ignacio. I'm also a board member on the Southwest COG and the Regional Housing Alliance, so I was asked to give you an update. The COG is in a state of flux right now. COG stands for Southwest Colorado Council of Governments. It's comprised of most of the communities within our region, town of Bayfield, town of Dolores, the city of Durango, town of Ignacio, town of Mancos, town of Pagosa Springs, town of Rico, and town of Silverton. There may be some membership that isn't current in there. As I mentioned, it's in a state of flux. Also, La Plata County, San Juan County, Dolores County, and Archuleta County are members. So with that type of representation, we try to look at different projects throughout that region, write grants, and take on some needs within our communities. The COG Executive Director, Miriam Gillow-Wells, left us in December. And so the COG is right now kind of in a state of flux, and we're working towards a retreat to see what our mission might be moving forward. There's been some discussion in the past about merging with Region 9, and that discussion is continuing. Region 9 is providing administrative services right now for the COG in this state of transition. So don't really have a whole lot to report at this time. The COG has worked on broadband and housing and other projects, and we're just going to take a look at what we're working on and see what is a good fit for all the member communities and organizations within the COG. Any questions on that? So the COG has also been supporting the Regional Housing Authority. The Regional Housing Authority is comprised of the city of Durango, La Plata County, town of Bayfield, town of Ignacio, and has been in a state of dormancy since about 2015, I believe. And with our housing crunch that has come to a head right now that we're all dealing with, we have been working hard on bringing the organization out of dormancy and put out a request for qualifications. We received an excellent proposal from Project Moxie and Capelli Consulting, who we are working with to kind of help us move this organization forward. We did a retreat back in 2020, and the primary objective out of the retreat was we need to build housing in all of our communities. And each of our community are working on individual projects, but it would be nice to have the RHA helping us move our projects along. We have 20 years of housing needs, and it's a big problem, as Michael identified just from the real estate numbers that we saw at the beginning of today's meeting. It's a dire situation. So the Economic Development Alliance is also working with Project Moxie, as Michael mentioned, and they'll have a lot of information that they can bring to the RHA and help us move that effort forward. So stay tuned. Hopefully we'll have some more information for you in the next coming quarter or so. We're pretty anxious to get things moving. Any questions on the RHA? Great. All right. Well, thank you. I also wear another hat. I am your Transportation Commissioner for District 8. There's 13 counties within that district. Maybe I'll have Michael and Michelle put me on a future agenda. I can come and talk to you all about some of the infrastructure funding that's coming to the state of Colorado and how it might affect our region down here. Thank you.
Mark, is there anything you don't do in Ignacio?
Well, I live in Pagosa and I have quite a few hats on. I'm also an MSI board of directors recently, so spread pretty thin, but it's all good. Thank you.
Well, thanks. Thanks for everything, and thanks for the update this morning. We'll move to Joe Thine with Anima Surgical to get a little bit of an update on COVID.
Always excited. Great. So just a couple quick updates. Keep my comments primarily focused on where we are now as it relates to COVID. I want to paint a picture of two things. One is good news and positive trends, but two, we're not out of the woods yet. So there's 3 data points or trends that are on this slide. The top is local, so La Plata County case trends over the last several months. And you can see that we've started to see steady declines over the last couple of weeks in positive reported cases. That's probably not as good an indicator of where we are as it was in the fall, with a lot of asymptomatic spread, constraints on testing, people testing at home, which doesn't get reported into the public database unless somebody proactively reports that. The numbers may or may not be as reliable as they've been, but nonetheless, declining. And I think anecdotally through all of our lives in the last month, we've known folks that have had COVID, and we're hearing less about that in the last week or 10 days than we did in the first part of January. So again, I think positive signs locally. If you still look at the endpoint of that trend, it's still higher than where we were in the fall. So we're not out of the woods locally. The bottom two graphs are looking at hospitalizations in the state of Colorado. Both come from the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment. The colored in slide is current hospitalizations. And again, you can see that within the state of Colorado, we're seeing a decline in patients admitted with a positive COVID test. Again, positive trend overall. But if you look at the number of patients actually in the hospital right now with COVID compared to earlier points in time in the pandemic, it's still tremendously high. The other thing that is not represented here is what's happened to all of us that are operating businesses and available staffing. You know, Tony talked about the impact on air travel, certainly impacting healthcare workers. And so we have fewer people working right now caring for more people with COVID. So while that trend is really positive, hospitals in Colorado and within our region are still not in an ideal place in terms of being able to respond to, you know, what could be an increasing number of patients needing COVID if there's another wave. And then the last graph that's on there is new admissions with COVID. And again, you can see positive trend overall. We're seeing fewer and fewer patients that are being admitted to hospitals with COVID. These trends overall have led hospitals in Colorado to move to a different tier of collaboration. So through our hospital association and the Department of Public Health and Environment, there's a Colorado Hospital Transfer Center that helps hospitals move patients between one another when there are bed capacity constraints. For the last couple of months, that's been operating at the highest tier, which we never thought we would activate. Last week, that moved down to the second highest tier. So again, positive movement overall. As we think about the coming months, encourage us all to continue to, you know, wear a mask when we're out in public, be thoughtful if we have some symptoms, things like that. Some other really good positive news in terms of how we can both prevent and then treat patients that are symptomatic. Locally, 70% of the eligible population in La Plata County is fully vaccinated. That's still defined as having 2 doses of an mRNA series, and 81% at least 1 dose. The update I got yesterday was even last week, we had 500 people get a dose of a vaccine, still getting individuals who are having their first dose in a series. So if you know others that haven't been vaccinated yet, encourage them to talk with their healthcare provider or others to learn more about if that's appropriate for them. Moderna received their full FDA approval. And so if you haven't seen it, they named their product Spikevax. So if you see that in the press, it's just the new name for what's now a fully approved drug. And over the last week, Pfizer applied to the FDA to have their product available for children under 5. That will go through, a regulatory process, and the timeline for that's not yet known, but a good step forward in terms of vaccinating even younger children. Treatments in La Plata County. So for a while, there were 3 FDA approved monoclonal antibody treatments. 2 of them have largely been shown to be ineffective with Omicron. And so the FDA withdrew their authorization for use. That leaves us with 1 monoclonal antibody that's not in the same supply as the other 2 were. So there's a limited availability of an effective monoclonal antibody treatment in the community. And then late in 2021, we heard about an oral antiviral also produced by Pfizer, and that's starting to become available, but again, in relatively limited supply. So we're in this window of time where we don't have great treatment options, but we can see, more treatment options being available in the future. So, again, be thoughtful about all of our interactions. Thanks for your support, not just of healthcare providers, but all of our local businesses as we navigate the next couple of months. Questions on COVID, and then I have one other just quick announcement for the community. So really want to share with you in the next week or so, we're going to start an invitation coming out from a number of local healthcare entities. March 30th, we're going to be co-hosting a community event on physician and healthcare provider burnout. It's being co-sponsored by Anima Surgical Hospital, Access Health System, Centura, the Colorado Hospital Association, the Durango Network, which is a group of local healthcare providers, as well as the Western Healthcare Alliance. It's going to be co-taught by a faculty member from the University of Colorado and also from a former rural CEO of a hospital, I think it's in Kansas, who now works with rural hospitals through the Hospital Association. It's going to be March 30th. It'll be up at Fort Lewis College. And we're really excited to host a community discussion on how do we attract and retain healthcare providers to our community and what all of us can be doing to create a welcoming environment to really help support healthcare in our community as a whole. So really excited to be working collaboratively across a number of healthcare entities. We're really hoping to have community leaders, both business leaders and elected and appointed officials present, so we can have that discussion with those of us that can really move the needle and make a difference in our community. So look for more information on that. We'll get that out to Mike to share with all of you in the next week. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Joe. Move to Mayor Tarkington from Bayfield for an update.
Well, things are not as exciting at the town as they are at the school district, apparently. But I think Nicole nailed the presentation of what's going on in Bayfield, and we're so grateful to have Nicole on board with us. Sorry, Durango, but as far as economic development is concerned in Bayfield, there's a big push to revitalize the Chamber of Commerce. It's been pretty much dormant the last couple of years, and that has a lot to do with COVID and the fact that myself and two other remaining chamber board members are now on the town board. So we kind of didn't think it was fair to make all the decisions in town. But we have this really great group of community leaders and business owners that are looking to take that up a notch. So keep an eye out for our big invite. I think we're going to try to do a big push in a community drive for May. But the new chamber organization is looking to bring back all the networking for our businesses. So, I think businesses just want to get out and socialize. Classes, events, reward programs, all the kind of standard chamber business, but I will be inviting everybody to that when I have a date. Thank you.
Thanks, Ashley.
City of Durango. I don't see Kim here this morning. Hey, how are you, Jessica?
Good morning. Okay, some of this was touched on, but I'll just kind of give a little bit more specifics. So for our economic opportunity division update, Durango's downtown's next step, like we was talked about, the city of Durango, as part of a public engagement process, is hosting a virtual community meeting Wednesday, February 16th. And so you'll want to be a part of that. If you want to see, there's 4 design concepts that we're going to be showing. And so if you want to have a kind of a say and take a look at that, be sure to jump on that. It's a virtual online meeting, and there'll be a survey, the virtual online meeting, and it'll all be available in Spanish as well. In terms of the 22 bump outs, the applications are now open. Like Tim said, they won't, the first day businesses can deploy bump outs will be March 14th. In regards to the new and Durango Creates grants, renewed funding update, we're going to offer businesses a matching grant of up to $5,000 for projects that have a positive impact on their property and are visible from the public right away. So go ahead and go look at city website for stuff on that, like facade improvements, newer update signs, sidewalks, curbs, exterior paint. So similar projects like that will be available. The North Main Gateway URA update, just a brief calendar update. A plan is drafted. We're seeking approval for early spring. Mike talked about the La Posta partnership already. And then for housing, the Planning Commission reviewed and approved 2 housing projects recently that are going to include 300 rental units in 3 Springs and South Durango. So that's exciting. Both projects are projected to break ground in the spring. So that is good news. And then February's Green Business Roundtable, which is tomorrow, will feature a discussion around planning for affordability and resilience in the changing West, talking about fair and affordable housing strategies through zoning. That's tomorrow from noon to 1 via Zoom. There you go.
There's flyers for the virtual downtown next step, link to the survey. I'll put them back here by the pictures.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And we'll move to La Plata County. I don't see Commissioner Salka here. Is he online with us?
Yeah, I'm
I'm here representing the county, Mike Sigrist, Deputy County Manager. Thanks for the chance to visit with you. Couple of things are really important right now. We finally received final direction or rulings from Treasury on the use of ARPA funds. So, and that clarification has been actually pretty positive in terms of it appears to give us a lot more flexibility in how we can use the funds, and especially giving us some flexibility to potentially use some of the funds for housing, which the commissioners are very concerned about and interested in. And we were also waiting for a more, for the infrastructure bill to come out and get guidance on that. So there's a lot going on in terms of funding. And one of the things we'll be looking at is how we can deploy funds, invest money in the right pot of or source of money, if you want to call it. The state also has in the process of about $400 million allocating for housing. So we really want to see how these funds can interact with each other so we can maximize achieving some hopefully really critical major kind of initiatives that will really help the county in the future. So stay tuned. I think probably fairly soon the Board of County Commissioners will be really sitting down as soon as we get through totally analyzing the 400 pages of guidelines from Treasury on the ARPA funds to make sure that we're really clear in terms of what we can do with those money. Then I think the board is going to be looking forward to making some decisions about some really key and critical initiatives here over the next few weeks, couple of months. So stay tuned for that. I think the other things have been reported on, except I would let you know, if you're not aware, the West Side Mobile Home Park, which houses about over 100 people, and most of whom are of the adults who are some critical employees. Those people have been notified that their project is up for sale. We're kind of uncertain about what that means in terms of the future, but obviously could be a loss of some really valuable affordable housing for employees, some of which may work for some of you. So there is a group that has convened to try and help the residents acquire the mobile home park, similar to the effort that was done on Animas View Mobile Home Park, if you're familiar with that, in Durango. And we're certainly looking at trying to be, from the county standpoint, trying to be helpful and supportive of that effort. So kind of stay tuned on that. If any folks in the business community have any ideas about how we can make sure that we preserve this for critical employee housing, I'd love to hear from you. So stay tuned. We'll see what happens. That's about all I have to report right now. Thanks.
Super. Thank you, Mike. We're right at 9 o'clock. Thank goodness. Any other closing comments, updates from the community? Mike, anything else?
No, the only thing I'd like to say is you can tell there's a lot of pent up demand. There's a lot of projects on the board. Continue to be engaged, because this is how we create alignment. It's so I think I'm enthused when I see a room full of people and 31 people remote. And I apologize for another thin, slow meeting, but no, that was a joke, folks. They're packed meetings. Please continue to be engaged, because this is how we get things done.
We really appreciate everybody coming this morning. If you have any questions, concerns, input, or looking to get involved, feel free to reach out to one of the board members, Mike or Michelle, and we'd love to have you. Thanks so much. See you guys next month.